Welcome, everyone. I'm Jen Nessel from the Center for Constitutional Rights. We will hear first from the attorneys from the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund and the Center for Constitutional Rights, who argued in court today. Then we will hear messages read from 3 of the anonymous plaintiffs in the case. And at that point, we will briefly take questions before Ibrahim Katabi of the Center for Constitutional Rights introduces an array of leaders from the Yemeni American community who have joined us today. So beginning now, we have Shayna Kadidal, who is a senior managing attorney with the Center for Constitutional Rights.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon. Thanks for coming out. Congress, when it passed the TPS statute, meant to force the executive branch to make scientific decisions about whether to allow people from war zones or disaster-torn countries to stay here in the U.S. until it was safe to go back. Congress meant the various expert agencies in the government to come together and advise the Secretary of Homeland Security on whether those conditions existed and whether they had changed. But this administration's contempt for expertise is matched only by its contempt for non-white people. And those dual forms of contempt are what drove this decision. It had nothing to do with the conditions on the ground, which remain so dire in Yemen today that the State Department today advises anyone traveling there to, quote, write a will, unquote, before you go. Now, we expect the federal court behind me to return these terminations back to the agency so that it can actually follow the law, just like 15 other courts hearing TPS terminations have already done. And we expect the court will want to do that before the expiration of Yemeni TPS on May the 5th. And then we'll wait for the Supreme Court to decide the Syrian and Haitian TPS cases that are currently before it, which should happen by the end of June. And after that, we at CCR and ALDEF will keep fighting for the Yemeni community and all the communities affected by this illegal and inhumane policy. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Hold the phone, the microphone closer.
Sorry. Now I would like to introduce Razin Zaman, who is the Immigrant Rights Director at the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund.
On May 4th, just 18 days from today, more than 3,000 Yemeni nationals are set to lose protections that they have had for over a decade. For many of them, these harms have already begun. Our plaintiff, Abdo Doe, has already lost his commercial pilot job. Our plaintiff, Abdo Doe, is expecting a child in mid-May with a serious heart condition requiring care impossible in Yemen amidst the ongoing war and the latest tensions in the Middle East. And for Abdo Doe, a cancer doctor and researcher, the end of TPS means the loss of her job, and for her patients undergoing cancer treatment, the loss of their physician. The impetus for this is a decision by the Trump administration, a decision that was arbitrary, capricious, politically driven, motivated by racial and religious animus, and as we argued in court, predetermined. And Yemen is just the latest country up for renewal whose temporary protected status was terminated by the administration, following Haiti, Burma, Venezuela, Afghanistan, Nepal, among others. It is the 13th out of 13 terminations. Despite the Secretary of Homeland Security's contention that, and I quote, extraordinary and temporary conditions continue to challenge Yemeni nationals' ability to safely return home, the government terminated TPS for Yemenis anyway. Taking together the administration's own statements and patterns of termination for Yemen and 12 other countries, it is clear that this decision to end TPS was discriminatory. The administration has made clear who it wants to keep and who it wants to kick out of the country. And that list largely includes Muslims, non-white people, now including Yemenis. This morning, we did not ask the court to determine that returning to Yemen is unsafe. We did not have to. You heard the quote, the secretary already decided that. We asked the court to see the administration's termination of TPS for what it is, a radical breach of a process prescribed by Congress. And that in the meantime, while the administration continues to defend its indefensible decision in court, 3,000 people should not be forced to return to a country the administration has said itself is too dangerous. What the administration has acknowledged is the world's worst humanitarian crisis. I want to thank our clients and the strong, resilient community I see before me that has shown up today to stand together with our Yemeni brothers and sisters under attack. Regardless of the messages this administration is sending with this and other attacks against our communities, just know that we're in this together. This is your home and our home, and we'll fight for as long, as hard as it takes to make sure it stays this way. Thank you.
Thank you. So our clients are anonymous for their safety. So all of the names are Doe names with a first name, but we have people here who are going to read messages from them, starting with Sondos Asiri.
She is a mother and educator from Michigan. She says, as a mother and an educator, I am living a terrifying struggle between my dream of securing my children's future and a dire reality that threatens our very existence. Returning to Yemen amidst the ongoing conflict and militia does not only mean losing personal safety, it means exposing my 9-year-old son to the grave risk of forced recruitment and systematic violence. What haunts me most is my current medical condition. I am carrying a child with a critical heart complication and a single umbilical artery, a high-risk pregnancy that requires specialized, continuous medical intervention that is non-existent in Yemen's collapsed healthcare system. Being forced to return means putting my unborn child's life at stake and depriving them of the fundamental right to medical care and survival. Beyond the medical crisis, as a mother, I am terrified for my 9-year-old son, who faces the grave risk of forced recruitment and violence by militia. We are not just seeking legal status. We are seeking our basic human rights to protection from arbitrary detention, poverty, and a life without any social or psychological support. I share my story to save my family from a future defined by fear and displacement. My message to the world is to see our case as a humanitarian one, centered on the lives of innocent children who have no part in this conflict.
Thank you. And now Hussam Khalid, a Yemeni American activist, will read 2 more messages.
Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you all. My name is Hussam, and I'm going to read you messages from 2 anonymous, because some of them were just read, one of them were just read, on behalf of 3,235 Yemenis in this country, on behalf of my friends, the cybersecurity expert watching this anxiously, and the Georgetown law graduate that is also watching this anxiously. But for now, I'm going to read the testimony of Fahd, a pilot from Florida. He says, being a pilot and a flight instructor has never been just a career for me. It's a commitment to others into the future. My purpose goes beyond flying. It's about mentoring, guiding, and helping the next generation of pilots. Every student I teach represents the future of our skies. Our skies. Their growth and success means everything to me. Today, I face the possibility of losing that purpose. As a TPS holder from Yemen, who is at risk of being required to leave the country, I may be forced to step away, not just from my work and my dream, but from the people I'm helping and their future. And this isn't only my story. Across this country, TPS holders are teachers, healthcare workers, engineers, and professionals who contribute every day. This has never been just about me. It's about all of us and the generations that depend on what we pass on. Everything we have done has been our way of giving back to this country that gave us the opportunity to pursue our dream and serve the people who live in it. This is the best we could do. I hope to continue doing what I love and helping others to grow, succeed, and reach their dreams. Thank you. That's the first one. Both of them are plaintiffs, as Ibrahim just reminded me. The second one goes by Abdo Doe, who is a cancer doctor and researcher from Texas. And she says, I have spent years working towards becoming a physician in the United States. TPS gave me the chance to continue that dream and contribute to cancer research that helped save lives. If TPS ends, I will lose my job, my future, and everything I have built. Returning to Yemen is dangerous and not safe. The country is still affected by years of conflict with ongoing instability, limited access to healthcare, and severe economic hardship. Basic services are unreliable, and many people struggle to meet their daily needs. For someone like me, especially as a woman who has lived and worked in the United States, there is no safe or stable environment to return to. This is not just my story. Many Yemenis like me are doing everything right and still face losing everything. We just want the opportunity to continue contributing and living in safety. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, now we can do a brief Q&A before we move into the second half and hear from many of the community leaders we have here. But if there are questions for the attorneys, now would be the time to ask them.
Can someone talk about in layman's terms what happened today and if there was a decision and when we expect one?
The question was if someone could speak in layman's terms about what happened today and if there is a decision, when we could expect that.
Yeah, so today it was a little bit like a preliminary injunction hearing. In another case, it's not technically a preliminary injunction, but what we're asking the court to do is we're basically saying, look, we have more or less proved our case, not fully, but we've proved enough for you to kind of put a halt to what's happening here. And, the judge moved this case along on a very rapid schedule, as you could tell from the hearing, in order to give himself about 2.5 weeks to rule before TPS status formally expires at midnight, the night of May 4th. So, we fully expect that that's what he's going to do, that he's going to put a halt to it, just like the other 15 courts that have considered these similar cases for other countries have done.
And why in New York?
You can file a case like this challenging the government's administrative actions anywhere in the country that you have a plaintiff. We happen to have plaintiffs here. The lawyers happen to be here. Obviously, New York is one of the several epicenters of the Yemeni community in the United States. So we filed here rather than, say, Dearborn. But yeah, pretty much arbitrary.
The vast majority of TPS holders live here
Oh.
in New York.
I'm informed that the vast majority of Yemeni TPS holders actually live here in New York, rather than in Little Yemen, in eastern
Rather
Michigan.
than in Yemen.
You have a little daily need question. There's a question.
Yeah, question here.
I was covering the hearing upstairs. I'm just interested to get your thoughts about the evidence the government has or hasn't provided as its basis for courts who are seeking to get rid of temporary protection status. These tables and the data that the judge or the government didn't seem to be able to give the judge any information about what they even meant.
Sure. I mean, I think
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. The question is, what do I think about the evidence that the government has put forward? What do I make of the government attorney's defense of it? I mean, I think it was kind of shocking how little they could tell us about this process. It's going to affect, over 3,000 people's lives in the most basic way. You heard a tremendous amount of discussion today, more than an hour, about what the State Department actually was, supposed to do in terms of input here. They gave us one sentence saying, yeah, we looked at this, it's all fine. That is not consistent with what I said at the outset, which is that Congress intended this to be a scientific process, to take it out of the kind of exclusive discretion of the president, as Rosine said, in response to what President Reagan had done with the Salvadorans. And we haven't seen anything like it. Ordinarily, it would be difficult for a district judge to decide that the government had erred in the course of 2 weeks of considering a case of this importance, if there were any sort of real significant factual question to sort through. But there isn't here. They're just legal questions.
I'll just say the government's data is fraud. The government's data is fraud. What they provided was 2 out of 2,222 people. That's who had fraud. That's 0.09% of people according to their own data. That's how they're using to justify terminating TPS for over 3,000 people. It makes absolutely no sense. And what they told the judge and what they're telling the Supreme Court is that they have absolute discretion for whatever reason they want. They said on record that they could get rid of TPS, right, if the secretary didn't like vanilla ice cream, right? If she didn't like, if she flipped a coin and decided this country didn't deserve TPS anymore, that was enough. She had that broad discretion, and courts don't have discretion to review that. That is what they're telling this court, and that is what they're telling the Supreme Court to do. And what we're saying is, under no interpretation of the law is that correct. It is immoral and is unlawful.
Thank you.
Any other-
بالعربي. We have a lawyer in Arabic. محمد.
اسمع
تكلموا
Let's-
بالعربي. It's a program.
Are there any other questions?
يلا تكلم انت
Just to
بالعربي.
clarify, I think we can answer the attorney. So the judge asked for redactions today. Is that basically where we left off? He asked for he wants the government to unredact documents.
unless it is
Yeah, the
national security.
government produced what's called the certified administrative record here. Anytime you challenge an agency action under the Administrative Procedure Act, they have to produce all the materials they relied on in making their decision. And it's kind of a set body of materials, which is why they were able to do it in a matter of days. Unfortunately, maybe the most significant document in there, what's called the decision memo from the head of U.S. Customs and Immigration Service, which is like a recommendation memo to the Secretary of Homeland Security, that was redacted in its entirety, all 19 pages of it. And as I mentioned at the podium, in 6 other cases, judges ordered this to be filed unredacted on the public record. The case at the Supreme Court, the decision memo is unredacted on the public record right now. So I'm not sure how the government thought that it could get away with blacking out every single word of it, as if somehow this was vital to preserve the candor of administration officials in talking to each other internally, which was their justification. It can't hold water, but I think this shows really, again, one part of the government not really talking to another in terms of deciding what to redact and what not to.
I might have one more question. What did you make of Ho's analogies about calling up the head of the FDA and asking how the cuisine is in Yemen to make this determination? And
Yeah,
what was,
I think it demonstrates how ridiculous the consultation process that happened here was. I mean, I think, albeit he had a lot of questions about it, everyone acknowledges the State Department has to have a central role in determining what country conditions are in foreign countries. Whether or not there's an armed conflict going on there, which, I think Defense and Treasury might have a lot to say about, or whether there are just extraordinary conditions on the ground. This is what the State Department does. This is why we all enjoyed reading those WikiLeaks cables. They're very informative about this sort of thing. But yeah, that's the expertise that Congress intended to have injected into this process. And again, here we got one sentence.
There's a question.
I have a question. The Supreme Court has another hearing about TPS for Syria and Haiti this month. Is the hearing going to affect this case, the TPS for Yemen?
Yeah, the jurisdictional questions that took up a great deal. Oh, sorry. The question is, the Supreme Court is hearing argument in the Haiti and Syria cases on April 29th. Is that argument going to affect these cases? It can. Nearly every issue that we talked about at some level is up in front of the Supreme Court. But I think the central question is jurisdiction, whether or not Congress meant cases like ours to be able to be heard by the courts. Congress frequently passes what we call jurisdiction stripping statutes, efforts to insulate government action from any kind of review in the courts. And it did a lot of this in the late 1990s when the Tea Party had first taken over Congress. Unfortunately, Bill Clinton signed off on a lot of these, including the one that we're dealing with today, back in 1996. But that's kind of one of the central questions here is, does the court even have the power to review this? Because if the court does have the power to review this, it's pretty clear that the government screwed up in making this decision on the merits. So that's really the central question, and that's going to be the central question in front of the Supreme Court. Again, they'll hear it on April 29th. They will probably decide it on the very last day of the term, which is usually the very last day of the month of June.
I have a
Thank you.
question.
I think we're not going to let, you can ask
Jen.
those questions,
Jen Brazili
I think,
to respond.
after. I really want to read a statement that was just sent to us. Earlier, the commissioner of the mayor's office of immigrant affairs, Faiza Ali, was going to come speak, but then was unable to at the last minute. So she sent, thank you, sent this message. Behind the name Abdo Doe v. Noem are thousands of Yemeni individuals and families, many of whom call New York City home, who are now being told that their lives here are temporary, that their contributions do not matter, and that their safety is negotiable. TPS is not just a designation, it's a lifeline. It has allowed people to work, support their families, to contribute to their communities, and to begin rebuilding their lives after unimaginable hardship. TPS holders are small business owners, workers, caregivers, and neighbors. They contribute hundreds of millions of dollars in taxes and play a vital role in our economy and our communities. Today, we stand with the plaintiffs and thousands of Yemeni New Yorkers whose futures hang in the balance. We call on the court to act with urgency, to preserve TPS protections while this case proceeds, and ensure that people are not forced to return to the dire conditions that threaten their safety and their lives. I think I would like to turn it over now to Ibrahim Katabi, who is a senior legal worker at the Center for Constitutional Rights, and he will introduce speakers from the community and various leaders at organizations.
Thank you, Jen. Thank the Yemeni American community for their support, and I want to thank the Yemeni American leaders here with us today, supporting and standing up for our sisters and brothers from our Yemeni community here in New York City, also across the country. So we have a number of Yemeni American leaders here. We'll be speaking about 2 minutes each, and we'll start with Sumaya Rumaim, the Union of Arab American Women. I don't know if she's here.
She left.
Abdurrahman Barman, who is an attorney in Yemen and also founded the American Center for Justice in Michigan. He traveled from Michigan here to show support for the case and for the plaintiffs and for our Yemenis brothers and sisters.
Thank you so much. أنا أتيت من ميشيغان أمثل المركز الأمريكي للعدالة والمنظمات الحقوقية في ميشيغان التي تدعم هذه القضية. احنا عندنا عدد كبير من حاملي TPS في ولاية ميشيغان يعيشوا حالة من القلق، حالة من الخوف. لديهم أطفال في المدارس، لديهم أطفال من ذوي الاحتياجات الخاصة. هناك بعض النساء على وشك الولادة. في حال ما إذا حصل عملية الترحيل سيكون هناك مأساة كبيرة جدا. أيضا هناك عدد من الأطفال يحملون الجنسية الأمريكية، ولدوا هنا ويراد أن يذهبوا إلى اليمن في مكان خطر، في مكان تعليم فيه منهار، الصحة منهارة.
And in summary, I came from Michigan. I represent the American Center for Justice, and I represent a lot of other Yemeni American organizations in Michigan. Also, there's a large Yemeni American Yemenis who hold TBS in Michigan. They all have fears. They all have concerns. Some of them need special needs and special attention and special medical attention. Some of them are pregnant, and some have U.S. citizen children. So they can't be forced to go back to a war zone Yemen.
فقط أنا لن أطيل كثيرا، لكن أذكر فقط بقضية عبد الملك السنباني الذي كان هنا في أمريكا، وعندما لم يستطع أن يحصل على الإقامة واللجوء عاد إلى اليمن، قتل، اعتقل وعذب حتى الموت بعد ساعات من وصوله إلى المطار.
And I want to mention a quick story. Abdul Malik al-Sanabani, it was a Yemeni who was living here in the U.S. and was forced to go back home. He didn't have papers here. And the moment he arrived there, he was detained, tortured, and killed within days of his arrival.
في ظل هذا الوضع الموجود في اليمن، وفي ظل الحرب التي جرت في الشرق الأوسط، العائدون إلى اليمن سيكونون يصنفوا على أنهم أعداء، وربما يتعرضوا إلى الاعتقالات أو عمليات التعذيب أو عمليات القتل.
So they will be people will going back home. They can be faced with serious consequences. They could be killed, they could be tortured, and they could be detained. And that's it. Thank you. Our next speaker would be Zaid Naji from the Alliance of Yemeni Americans.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Part of we Yemeni and billions around the world fell in love with America is because we know that those who were forced, but the oppressed and the fearful who came to this great land know wholeheartedly they will never be pushed out to the same condition that they fled. Today, wars in Yemen start every 3.5 seconds. And militias are, and its arms can be found in Yemen in every corner. And political factions gather their arms every day. Sending TPS into Yemen or back to Yemen is a matter of life and death. The other reason why we fell in love with America is because we know in this great land there are those who will stand for what's right, who will stand for this great land to be and stay a great land. I'm speaking about judges, I'm speaking about organizations, I'm speaking about press, I'm speaking about officials. And with that, on behalf of the Yemeni TPS, 3,000, approximately 3,000 of them, on behalf of Yemeni American community, on behalf of Yemenis, I want to thank this great organization, the Center for Constitutional Right and the Asian American Legal Fund, and everyone who has a hand in this particular case and every case that hopefully will keep America, America. Thank you.
Thank you. That's Naji. Our next speaker would be Abdo Samad Al-Faqih, Washington Center for Yemeni Studies.
Thank you so much. As Washington Center for Yemeni Studies, from day one in June 2025, we started working in the immigration case in general. And we figured out we have to focus on the TPS for Yemenis. So we did many workshops at that time, and we published some articles about that, and we wrote many reports and sent them to different departments in DC, including media. In September 3rd, we held an event in the Congress called Yemeni Advocacy Day with our partners from Yemeni communities in 17 states, and talked at that day with almost 65 senators and congressmen and women about TPS for Yemenis. Later on, we visited some of them to work more deeper with more details in this case. After that, we made a campaign and we sent thousands of letters to the senators and Congress, ask them to help in this case, in this TPS case with DHS. We start working with some organization to prepare some steps to go to the court as we are today. Like CASP and other, until we met with many organizations like CCR, AALDEF, CASP, and Muslim Advocacy, and others. So I like to end with thanking everyone who helped in this case, with even publish a post in social media. Thank you, Ibrahim. Thank you, CCR. Thank you, Elder. And also I wanted to thank my team. They work hard for the last 8 months. Fatima, Marwa, Imad, Marwan, all of them, thank you. Thank you for the senators and the Congress who held now a letter to send to the DHS باختصار كمركز واشنطن للدراسات اليمنية.
Thank you so much, Abdo Samad. Our next speaker would be Ali Saidi, President of Yemenity, the Yemeni American community.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Thank you to Legals. You did good. I forgot your name again. Erda and Sean. Yeah, Erda. Thank you, and thank you to Julie and everybody and the Constitution right. You know, we are here fighting for the community, and we will not forget about the diversity, and we will not forget about the people that who work for the U.S. Embassy in Yemen, and their document they were certified. There's no such a fraud over there. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Saidi. Next speaker, but not the last but not least, Brother Fath Elaya, the President of the Yemeni American Association.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أولا شكرا لكم على الحضور جميعا، شكرا للمنظمات التي قدمت الدعوة، شكرا للأخ إبراهيم القعطبي الذي كان المنسق العام بين جميع المنظمات والجمعيات. نحن اليوم هنا نقول كلمة واحدة، أن اليمن لا تزال غير آمنة. برنامج الحماية المؤقتة هو طوق الأسر اليمنية التي لا تستطيع العودة إلى اليمن. نحن لا نطالب شيئا خاصا بل نطلب العدالة والإنسانية. الجالية اليمنية في الولايات المتحدة تعمل وتساهم وهي جزء من هذا المجتمع، واليوم نطلب من الحكومة الأمريكية أن تقف مع هذه القيم الإنسانية وأن تمدد الحماية المؤقتة لليمنيين. حماية الناس ليست خيارا سياسيا بل واجب إنساني. Today we stand here to send a clear message. Yemen is not clear right now. So to send the people back to Yemen, it's making more worse. We here today at the front of the district court. We wish the judge will grant our motion. And thank you very much for Mr. Ibrahim. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Elaya. And now we conclude our press conference. With that said, thank you for everyone for coming out today. We will wait to hear back from the court, and hopefully we'll help this kind of discrimination that the Trump administration racist and baseless discrimination of the Yemen TPS. Thank you.